I never mentioned my $40,000 monthly salary to my son, even though he had always seen me living a simple, modest life. One day, he invited me to dinner with his wife's parents, who were visiting from another country. That evening, I decided to test how they would treat someone they believed to be poor by pretending to be a struggling, naive mother. But the moment I stepped into that restaurant, everything took a turn I didn't expect. What unfolded that night shattered my daughter-in-law and her parents in ways they could never have imagined. And honestly, they had it coming. Let me tell you how I got there, and who I really am. Because my son, Marcus, at 35 years old, had no idea about the truth of his mother's life. To him, I was simply the woman who left home early every morning for work, returned tired each evening, and cooked meals with whatever ingredients were available in the fridge. Just another ordinary employee, maybe a secretary, someone unremarkable, nothing special. And I never corrected that impression. I never told him that I made $40,000 a month, that I had been a senior executive at a multinational company for nearly 2 decades, signing million-dollar contracts and making decisions that affected thousands of lives. Why would I? I never felt the need to display my success like a trophy. I grew up in a time when dignity was quiet, when silence spoke louder than self-praise. So I kept my truth to myself. For years, I stayed in the same modest apartment. I carried the same leather handbag until it was falling apart. I bought clothes from discount stores, cooked at home, saved every penny, invested wisely, and built my wealth in silence. Because true strength doesn't make noise. True strength watches, listens, and observes. And I was observing closely that Tuesday afternoon when Marcus called me. His voice sounded different, nervous, hesitant, like when he was a little boy who had done something wrong. "Mom," he said, "I need a favor. Simone's parents are visiting from abroad. It's their first time here, and they'd love to meet you. We're having dinner this Saturday at a restaurant. Please come." Something in his tone unsettled me. It wasn't the tone of a son excited to introduce his mother. It sounded more like someone trying not to be embarrassed, someone wanting to fit in and make a good impression. "Do they know anything about me?" I asked calmly. There was a brief silence. Then Marcus hesitated. "I told them you work in an office, that you live alone, that you're simple. That you don't have much." There it was, the word simple. As if my entire life could be summarized in that small, pitiful adjective. As if being my mother embarrassed him. I took a long, steady breath. "All right, Marcus," I said softly. "I'll be there." After hanging up, I looked around my living room, old but comfortable furniture, bare walls without expensive art, a small television, nothing that would impress anyone. And at that very moment, I decided something. If my son thought I was a poor woman, and if his wife's family was coming ready to judge, then I'd give them exactly what they expected. I would play the part. A broke, naive mother just scraping by. I wanted to see for myself how they would treat someone who appeared to have nothing. I wanted to see their real faces. Because I had a suspicion. Simone and her family seemed like the kind of people who measured a person's worth by the size of their bank account. And my instincts rarely fail me. Saturday came. I put on the worst outfit I owned. A shapeless, wrinkled gray dress that looked like it came from a thrift store. A pair of old worn shoes, no jewelry, not even a watch. I picked up a faded canvas tote, tied my hair back into a messy ponytail, and stared at my reflection. I looked like a woman broken by life. Plain, forgettable, perfect. I took a taxi to the address, a luxury restaurant in the most exclusive area of the city, the kind where menus have no prices and each table setting costs more than an average person's monthly wage. As we drove, a strange mix of emotions filled me, anticipation and sadness. Anticipation because I knew something significant was about to happen, sadness because a part of me still hoped I was wrong. I hoped they would be kind, that they would see past the old clothes. But the part of me that had spent 40 years among corporate sharks knew better. I knew exactly what kind of evening awaited me. The taxi stopped in front of the restaurant. Soft golden lights, a doorman with white gloves, elegantly dressed people walking in. I paid the fare, stepped out, took a deep breath, and crossed the threshold. And there they were. Marcus stood beside a long table by the window, dressed in a dark suit and crisp white shirt, his shoes polished to a shine. He looked anxious. Beside him stood Simone, my daughter-in-law, wearing a cream-colored tailored dress with golden accents, her straight hair perfectly styled, high heels completing her flawless look. She appeared as elegant as ever, but her eyes weren't on me. They were fixed toward the entrance, carrying an expression that was tense and embarrassed. And then I saw them, Simone's parents, already seated at the table, waiting like royalty upon their thrones. Her mother, Veronica, wore a fitted emerald dress covered in sequins, jewels glimmering on her neck, wrists, and fingers. Her dark hair was neatly styled in an elegant bun. She had that cold, polished kind of beauty that intimidates. Beside her sat her husband, Franklin, dressed in a perfect gray suit with a massive watch gleaming on his wrist, his face serious and composed. Both looked as if they had stepped out of a luxury magazine. I walked toward them slowly, taking small, careful steps, as if uncertain or intimidated. Marcus noticed me first, and his face changed instantly. His eyes widened as he looked me up and down, then swallowed hard. "Mom, you came," he said awkwardly. "Of course, son," I replied softly, offering a shy smile, the kind of smile belonging to someone not used to such places. Simone gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. It was cold, mechanical. "Mother-in-law, it's good to see you," she said, though her eyes said otherwise. She turned to her parents with a strained tone. "Dad, Mom, this is Marcus's mother." Veronica looked up, her eyes scanning me from head to toe. In that instant, I saw it all. The judgment, the disdain, the disappointment. Her gaze lingered on my wrinkled dress, my worn shoes, my faded tote bag. She didn't speak at first. Then she extended a hand. Cold, brief, weak. "A pleasure," she said flatly. Franklin did the same, his handshake just as lifeless, his smile forced. I took the seat at the very end of the table, farthest from everyone, as though I were an afterthought. No one offered to pull out my chair or asked if I was comfortable. Soon, the waiter arrived, handing out heavy menus written entirely in French. I opened mine and pretended not to understand a single word. Veronica watched me closely. "Do you need help with the menu?" she asked with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Yes, please," I said quietly. "I'm not familiar with these dishes." She sighed softly and handed the menu to the waiter. "She'll have something simple," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Nothing too expensive. We don't want to go overboard." The words hung in the air like poison. Franklin nodded in agreement. Marcus looked away. Simone fiddled with her napkin. No one spoke, and I simply watched. Veronica started speaking first, her voice calm and polished, as if she were giving a performance. She talked about general things, their long trip from overseas, how exhausting the flight had been, how different everything felt here. But soon, her words took a predictable turn. She began sliding in remarks about money, the kind meant to sound casual but carefully crafted to impress. She mentioned the hotel where they were staying, one of the best in the city, she said, $1,000 a night. Then came the luxury car they had rented, and the high-end stores they'd visited. "We bought a few things," she added lightly, "nothing major, just a few $1,000s. As she spoke, she kept her eyes on me, clearly waiting for a reaction, perhaps surprise, admiration, envy. But I only nodded with a polite smile. "How lovely," I said. She went on, clearly encouraged by my calmness. "You know, AARA, we've always been very careful with our finances," she said, her tone dripping with superiority. "We worked hard, invested wisely. Now we have properties in 3 countries. Franklin runs several businesses, and I oversee our investments." She smiled, a proud, practiced smile. Then, with the same fake sweetness, she asked, "And what about you? What do you do exactly?" I lowered my gaze and replied quietly, "I work in an office. I handle paperwork, filing, small administrative tasks, just simple things." Veronica exchanged a knowing look with Franklin. "Ah, I see. Administrative work. That's nice. Honest work. All jobs are dignified, aren't they?" "Of course," I said softly. Then the food arrived, plates that looked like artwork, each portion smaller than my palm. Veronica sliced her steak with perfect precision. "This costs $80, she commented proudly. "But it's worth it. Quality should always be paid for." You can't just eat anything, right? I nodded, my expression calm. You're absolutely right. Marcus, clearly uncomfortable, tried to change the subject, talking about his projects, his work, but Veronica interrupted him smoothly. Tell me, Marcus, she asked, does your mother live alone? Marcus nodded. Yes, she does. She has a small apartment. Veronica turned to me with an expression of false sympathy. It must be difficult, isn't it? Living by yourself at your age, with not much support. Does your salary cover everything? I felt the trap tightening but kept my composure. I manage, I said lightly. I save where I can. I don't need much. Veronica let out a theatrical sigh. Oh, Aara, you are so brave. Really, I admire women who keep going despite hardships. Although, of course, one always wishes to give their children more, to provide a better life. But in the end, everyone gives what they can. There it was, the subtle, polished insult wrapped in false praise. She was implying that I had failed my son, that I hadn't given him enough, that I was an inadequate mother. Simone stared down at her plate, avoiding my eyes. Marcus clenched his fists beneath the table. I, however, just smiled faintly. Yes, I said softly, everyone gives what they can. Veronica continued, as if she hadn't noticed the tension. We always made sure Simone had the best, she said proudly. She attended top schools, traveled the world, learned several languages. Now she has a wonderful career and earns very well. And when she married Marcus, we helped them a lot. We contributed to the down payment on their house. We even paid for their honeymoon. That's just who we are. We believe in supporting our children. Her gaze shifted toward me, sharp and deliberate. And you, Aara, were you able to help Marcus with anything when he got married? The question sliced through the air. Not much, I replied softly. I gave them what I could, a small gift. Veronica smiled, her lips curling with condescension. How sweet, she said. Every little bit counts, right? It's the thought that matters, not the amount. That's when I felt it. That slow, icy wave of anger rising inside me. It wasn't loud or explosive. It was cold, controlled, and deliberate, like a river beneath a sheet of ice. I breathed deeply, kept my mild smile, and let her keep talking. Because that's what people like Veronica do. They talk, they boast, they show off. And the more they speak, the more they expose their emptiness. She took a delicate sip of her wine, swirling it in her glass like an expert. This is a very fine wine, she said proudly. It's from an exclusive region in France, costs about $200 a bottle. But when you appreciate quality, you don't settle for less. Do you enjoy wine, Aara? Only on special occasions, I replied humbly. And usually the inexpensive kind. I don't really know much about wines. Veronica's lips stretched into a polite, superior smile. Oh, don't worry, not everyone has a refined palate. It comes with experience, travel, and education. She glanced at her husband. Franklin and I have visited vineyards in Europe, South America, and California. We're quite knowledgeable now. It's one of our shared passions. Franklin nodded proudly. It's a hobby we enjoy. Simone's learning, too. She's got good taste. Takes after us. Simone gave a forced smile. Thanks, Mom. Veronica turned back to me. And you, Aara? Any hobbies? What do you do in your free time? I shrugged lightly. I watch TV, cook, go for walks in the park, simple things. Veronica exchanged another glance with Franklin. That look again. The one that carried more meaning than words, full of silent judgment. How lovely, she said, her tone dripping with false warmth. Simple things do have their charm. Although, of course, one always hopes to see more of the world, to grow, to experience different cultures. But I understand not everyone gets those opportunities. I nodded quietly. You're right, not everyone does. The waiter arrived again, this time with dessert, tiny, delicate servings that looked more like decoration than food. Veronica ordered the most expensive one on the menu, a $30 slice of cake covered with edible gold flakes. This is divine, she said after her first bite, lifting her fork like a critic. See those little golden flecks? Only the finest restaurants offer that touch. I ate my dessert silently, a simple, modest one, while she continued her performance. Then, her tone changed. You know, Aara, she began, I think it's important we talk about something as a family now that we're all here. Her face softened into that insincere, maternal expression. Marcus is our son-in-law, and we love him dearly. Simone loves him, and we completely respect her choice. But as parents, we always want what's best for our daughter. Marcus stiffened. Mom, maybe this isn't the time. Veronica raised her hand. Let me finish, son. It's important. She turned back to me, her expression grave yet polite. Aara, I understand you did your best with Marcus. I know raising him alone wasn't easy, and I respect you deeply for that. But Marcus is in a different stage of his life now. He's married, he has responsibilities, and Simone and he deserve stability. Stability? I asked quietly. Yes, she replied smoothly. Emotional and financial stability. We've helped them a great deal, and we'll continue to. But we also think Marcus shouldn't have unnecessary burdens. There it was, the insult wrapped in polite conversation. She was calling me a burden. Simone kept staring at her plate, her cheeks flushed. Marcus's jaw tightened. Burdens, I repeated softly. Veronica gave a pitying smile. I don't mean to sound harsh, Aara. But at your age, living alone on a limited income, it's natural for Marcus to worry about you. He feels responsible for you, and that's admirable, but we don't want that worry to strain his marriage. I hope you understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. I'm so glad, she continued smoothly. That's why Franklin and I have been thinking. We'd like to help you financially, to give you a small monthly allowance, just enough so you can live comfortably without Marcus feeling pressure. Of course, it would be modest. We can't do miracles, but it would be a little support. I stayed silent, watching her. And in exchange, she went on, we'd only ask that you respect Marcus and Simone's space. Not to visit too often, not to call so much, just to give them room to build their own life together. How does that sound? There it was, their real intention. They wanted to pay me off. To make me disappear quietly from my son's life so I wouldn't embarrass them with my poverty. Marcus's face turned red. Mom, that's enough. You don't have to say this. But Veronica cut him off gently. Marcus, calm down. We're just having an adult conversation. Your mother understands. I picked up my napkin, calmly dabbed my lips, and took a slow sip of water. The silence around the table thickened. Everyone was watching me. Veronica with confidence, Franklin with smugness, Simone with shame, Marcus with desperation. Then I spoke. My voice was no longer soft. It was clear, steady, and sharp as glass. That's quite an offer, Veronica, I said. Truly generous. Veronica smiled, triumphant. I'm glad you think so. I nodded. But I have a few questions, just to understand it better. Of course, she said smoothly. Ask away. I leaned forward slightly. How much exactly is this modest monthly allowance you're offering? Veronica hesitated. Well, perhaps $500. Maybe $700, depending. I see, I said. So, $700 a month, for me to vanish quietly from my son's life. Veronica frowned. That's not how I'd put it. But that's exactly what you meant, I replied calmly. She shifted uncomfortably. Aara, please don't misunderstand. We just want to help. Oh, I understand perfectly, I said. Tell me, how much did you help with the house down payment? $40,000, she answered proudly. 40,000, I repeated. That's generous. And the honeymoon? $15,000. 3 weeks through Europe. Incredible, I said softly. So altogether, you've invested about $55,000 in Marcus and Simone. Veronica smiled smugly. When you love your children, you don't hold back. You're right, I said slowly. When you truly love your children, you don't hold back. I paused, then looked directly into her eyes. But tell me, Veronica, did all that money buy you anything? She blinked. I'm sorry. Did it buy you respect? I asked quietly. Did it buy you genuine love, or just obedience? The air in the room shifted instantly. Veronica's confident smile faded.